Welcome back to the People's President. Thank you for watching this edition of the Center for Trade Policy and Development, CTPD's The People's President. We move forward with the 4 successful candidates in this edition of the show who have survived elimination. Congratulations to all 4 of you. I understand that you must be feeling quite good, right? Yes. You should. But there's more elimination that's going to be happening, and that's why you people are going to be debating tonight. Lady and gentlemen, I want to make the rules clear one more time. You have 5 minutes to speak to the subject, which is public debt and its impact on poverty and inequality. You will highlight how your government will deal with the public debt and how your government will reduce poverty and inequality. Within that 5 minutes, you will stress your points, after which your fellow candidates, inclusive of myself, will have 5 minutes to question some of your decisions and some of your proposals. You will respond to these and we move to the next speaker. Is that clear?
Very clear.
We will begin. I know very well, given that you are a feminist and you don't subscribe to ladies first, but we read from left to right. So we'll begin with you. How are you feeling?
I am still very humbled. I think the feeling that I've always had, Jonah, is a feeling of humility. I traveled all the way from Kasama to be a part of this competition and a part of this program because it is important that I begin to speak to issues that affect my community and my country. So it's a spirit. I feel very humbled to be here.
The votes, as we will show on the screen just now, will be indicated behind me, indicate that you got the most votes. How does that make you feel?
Even more humility. It is humbling that Zambia listened and Zambia was given hope, and they tapped into the hope and they voted in that way.
You were feeling a bit nervous as we were starting. Are you feeling more comfortable? Does this make you more comfortable?
It's not so much nervous, it is so much passion. When we begin to speak about issues affecting my nation, I get very passionate, and I think that shows.
Well, you have 5 minutes to speak about what else is affecting your nation, as you put it. Now you have to look into that camera there and address these people with your debate, and that's going to be 5 minutes. Please ensure that you stick to the time.
Thank you, Jonah.
Madam Candidate, your time starts now.
Greetings, Zambia, and a very happy Mother's Day to all our mothers. In speaking on public debt, it is very important that we realize that the first step to finding solutions is admitting that we have a problem. My name is Given Kapolyo, aspiring to be your people's president, and I admit that Zambia has a debt problem. Now, because I am just a simple girl from Kasama, I do not want to jump into the complexity of public debt. So instead, let me simplify it so that my grandmother in Chinsali can understand the current situation. So we can liken Zambia to a household, a family. So our current situation is that the father of the house needs money for the house, of course. So he borrows from this next door neighbor. But then again, he needs money. So he borrows from this next door neighbor. But then again, he needs money. But he can't borrow from this neighbor or this neighbor. So instead, he goes to private lenders. These are who we call abakaloba. And so when he gets this money from this lender and this lender and this lender, you find that at the end of the day, when he gets his monthly salary, he cannot then take his children to school or buy the needed food or even dress his children because his salary then has to go towards repaying the people that he owes. In simplicity, that is our current situation. Countrymen and women, in tackling the issue of debt, it is very important that we remember what I said in my manifesto the first time. A vibrant, dynamic, and diversified economy is the simple answer, and that is the route that my government will take. Countrymen and women, it is important to understand that in order for us to pay back that debt, we need to stabilize our economy. We need to make our economy stronger. How do we do that? My government will ensure that we keep local businesses running. That will mean we incentivize the running of local businesses by simply introducing window taxes for local businesses, tax breaks, so that we strengthen the business base and keep annual income coming in. Countrymen and women, Apart from that, my country believes that the one way that we can strengthen our economy in order to service our debt is by exports. We are a country that largely imports, and that has weakened our economy. We need to be a country that exports. One way we can do that is not only to invest in exporting raw goods, but also investing in manufacturing and industries, so that these raw materials that we have can then be produced, and then we add value so that these materials can then be exported as finished goods. That will bring in foreign currency, make our economy stronger, and we'll be able to pay back our debt as well as run our country. Countrymen and women, apart from that, my country believes in, my government shall intensify diversification. Depending on copper and copper alone is not the way to go. It is important that we diversify and have a lot of other sectors operating so that our economy is made stronger. Tourism, for instance. Yes, Livingstone is a tourist capital, but to simply leave tourism at that is not enough. Zambia is a beautiful land, and we must look to all areas. Luapula, for instance, is a beautiful tourist province that we will intensify tourism in all provinces that have tourism attractions and ensure that we have revenue coming in through tourism. Agriculture as well. My government will have deliberate policies such as encouraging people to bring in agricultural materials at lesser task, I beg your pardon, at lesser tax. That will mean that we'll have more people producing, not just to feed the nation, but also for exports. But on that, not just exporting maize, but going a little further and producing maize into Milli Meal and cornflakes. Investing in production is the route to making our economy stronger and then paying back our debt. Countrymen and women, another very important thing that my government will do is introduce a fast-track corruption court. Corruption is one of the major causes of poverty. So, by introducing a fast-track corruption court, we will ensure that those that rob a nation of its resources will quickly be marked and prosecuted, and not just them, but those who are in charge of them as well. Countrymen and women, by doing this, strengthening our economy, stiffening the law on corruption, we will see that the poverty levels in our country will reduce, and the inequality, of course, being reduced. Education is another very important thing that my government will definitely invest in, and not just formal education, but education at all levels. If the people in Luapula are fishermen, we will ensure that they have the right knowledge on fishing so that they can then be fishermen at a larger scale and contribute to the GDP of the nation. Countrymen and women, my motto still stands. A vibrant, dynamic, and diversified economy is the answer to Zambia's current issues.
Madam President, you've spoken quite well, but you started by giving analysis on what you think about the debt of the situation. You give the analogy of a home that borrows from this house to this house. But one thing that you left out, Madam President, is why is he borrowing the money? Because that's also an important aspect. You need to know and evaluate why he's borrowing the money. Don't you recognize the reason why we have been borrowing this money?
Thank you very much, Jonah. What I do recognize is that we have been borrowing. What I do also recognize, Jonah, is that my research and my reading on what we have been spending the money on, we must all read the Auditor General's report. Yes, we have been. It is another thing that I must say about debt is this. Debt in itself is not a bad thing. There is nothing wrong with borrowing. But it is very important that you consider, one, who you are borrowing from. Two, why are you borrowing and how will you use that money, and especially what you use the money on. Jonah, the reason why we are in this debt crisis is simply this. We borrow to consume and not to reproduce. So if we were borrowing and then investing, we would find a situation that if we borrow and build an industry, or an industry, for instance, the very industry will begin to make profits and repay its own debt that built it.
The roads don't count.
The roads are very important. The roads are very important.
That's where most of the debt is going.
Thank you, Jonah. So the roads are very important. But unfortunately, the roads on their own are not able to repay the debt that built them. And that is the reality. So what would actually help is this. Jonah, if we borrowed money and built an industry, we would make profits to repay the debt and build roads. So our direction, Jonah, should be that if we are borrowing, it should be to invest so that by what we get as profits, we then meet the social needs of the people, build the roads, and the same industry will repay the debt.
By show of hands, which one of you would like to respond to Madam Candidate's concerns. You have 30 seconds to give your issue.
Ms. President, I noticed you talked about producing more exports, such as maize, and that will strengthen our economy. I wonder, how much do you think this will contribute to our export aggregate income that we can get from agriculture? I noticed you specifically did not talk about mining, which, as far as I'm concerned, contributes to 80% of our economy in terms of export. So if you don't talk about mining and you talk about agriculture, even though your intention is good, I feel it will not be enough. We might export as much maize.
All right, Barry.
Thank you so much, Comrade, for that very powerful question. So in responding, first of all, when I referred to maize and agriculture, I did mention that it is not enough to just produce maize and then begin to export it at that level. Value addition is what I spoke to. I spoke to, yes, we grow maize. So instead of just importing that maize as it is important that we put about industries that will then make cornflakes, for instance. And when we do, that will create jobs for our people, by the way, the creation of those cornflakes. And after that, we can then export a finished product, and that will bring in foreign exchange, hence strengthening our economy. On the second thing, which is mining, I did speak to mining, and I acknowledge that we've been heavily dependent on mining because we're the second largest producer of copper in Africa. So yes, but one thing we should realize is that copper is not going to be there forever. So that's why I speak to diversification. Yes, copper is important. I do not lessen its importance, but I feel already we are doing the most with copper, which will soon be done. We don't know when. It could be tomorrow, it could be next year. So it's important that we diversify and begin to look at other sectors as well. And that is what I speak to.
All right, Given. Caristo, has your concern been addressed?
I think she has acknowledged the problem. And I think where she lacks is on the policies that we are going to implement in order to avoid such an occurrence to repeat itself.
All right. Well, you would like to quickly respond to that, Given, and if you've got any other issues that you'd like addressed to Given's statement, you would do so within your time. Given, you'd like to respond?
Yes, he speaks to how I spent the first minute acknowledging the problem, which is the first step to solving an issue, its acceptance. But then, when I speak to policies that will address these challenges, I've spoken to a fast-track court. Corruption is one of our biggest problems, and it's even the money. I will not go there, but corruption is one of our biggest problems. Introducing a fast-track court aids that. On the issue, I've also spoken to taxation incentives for local businesses and startup businesses. That will encourage trade. That will build a thriving business environment. All those are policies that speak to lessening our debt situation. I'll speak to many more, such as cheapening the amount of money that you need to pay when you're bringing in agricultural goods. That will also encourage people to diversify and venture into agricultural ventures, which will then bring in money that will help our economy. And as I spoke earlier on, the route to solving our debt problem is a vibrant, dynamic, and diversified economy.
That's your 10 minutes, Madam President. Thank you so much for giving us that address. Let's give her a round of applause, even if she's a contestant. We will move forward. Muila,
Yes, John.
you've done this before. You were my junior in high school and you were part of the debate club, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Yes, you were. So you find this quite easy, don't you?
Not really, considering the fact that I did it quite a long time. 2015 to now is quite a long time, so it's not really easy.
But also there's an aspect of you actually dealing with real issues here, issues that are affecting the country. That sort of changes the dynamic, doesn't it?
Exactly, it does.
And do you feel that like you're well prepared for today?
I am well prepared, and what for me is I'm not just coming here to acknowledge the problem, but I'm coming here to give practical solutions. That's what I'm about to do.
Good. Congratulations for making it
Thank
to
you.
the top 4.
Thank you.
But you have to make it to the next round, and if you have to make it to the next round, you need more votes. The only way you're going to be able to do that is convince the electorate that you are the man for the job. Just like giving you 5 minutes to give us your address, after that 5 minutes, we have 5 minutes to discuss with you. You feel ready?
I am.
Ready or not, your camera is there, and your 5 minutes begins now.
Countrymen and women, I'm going to join my colleague in wishing our mothers a happy Mother's Day. And also special thanks to all those that voted for me. Without you, I wouldn't be there. My colleague has already outlined some of the challenges that we are facing as a country,
and also the impact of public debt on us. So what I'm going to do is go direct into the solutions, because she's already done justice to me. My government will make sure that we revise public debt laws to adapt them to changing circumstances. It will sadden you, countrymen and women, to note that the Loans and Guarantees Authorization Act, which is actually the act that deals with the contraction of debt, is actually repugnant to the Constitution. You will realize that in Article 63(2)(d) of the Constitution clearly states that the National Assembly shall oversee the performance of the executive functions by approving public debt before it is contracted. However, Section 3 of the Loans and Guarantees Authorization Act says something else. It actually gives the power in the minister to raise loans from time to time in the Republic elsewhere on behalf of government. The first thing that we are going to do when given the mandate is make sure that within the first quarter of my first year in office, we amend this law, because we cannot be having one law giving power to the minister to contract debt on behalf of the country, whereas the Constitution says the National Assembly has to approve first. The second thing that we are going to do is that we are going to amend the Constitution. And this is one thing that we are going to include. One, the appointment of the Attorney General will no longer be done by the President. The President will only be there to provide, to recommend rather. So who will then appoint the Attorney General? The Attorney General will be appointed by the Judicial Service Commission, who I am very confident enough that who I'm very sure is competent enough to appoint. And also we are going to make sure that we provide for security of tenure of office for the Attorney General. This means that the Attorney General will only lose his job after retirement or when he is in a position where he cannot carry out his duties. By so doing, we are strengthening transparency in government spending, because the Attorney General will be carrying out his duties knowing very well that he will not lose his job when he reports accurately what's happening in the country. Secondly, we will amend Article 57 of the Constitution to deal with by-elections. We've already done it at presidential level. We need to trickle it down to mayor, member of parliament, council chairperson, councillor, so that when there's a vacancy in these offices, we don't have by-elections. By so doing, we're actually saving money to service our debt. Thirdly, we will amend Article 72(2) of the Constitution, which talks about disqualification of members of parliament. This will include the office of member of parliament shall become vacant if the member of parliament fails to declare assets. I've noticed with great concern that most of our members of parliament are not declaring their assets. So we need to make sure that they declare. It's not okay for me as Mwila Walia to enter parliament today. 2 years later, I become one of the richest people. We need to know exactly where this money is coming from. Countrymen and women, like I said in my manifesto presentation last time, corruption has become a wreaking havoc on the Zambian economy. You find that funds from tax revenues and foreign ends actually ends up in private pockets. This will be a thing of the past under my leadership, because we shall not tolerate corruption, and we will ensure that I'm very cognizant of the fact that there are a lot of cases that need to be dealt with, but corruption cases will make sure that they are given priority. Countrymen and women, what my government is going to do is also reduce on unnecessary government spending. As the old saying goes, cut your cloth according to your dress. So we'll make sure that all these unnecessary spending that we see is brought to an end. Countrymen and women, in conclusion, I would like to appeal to you to make sure that you analyze each and every candidate that is going to debate today, and think and analyze and ensure that you choose the person that provides policies that are practical and not things that a typical politician is going to tell you. I'm going to end my presentation by quoting one of the wise men by the name of Herbert Hoover, who once said, "Blessed are the young, for they shall inherit national debt." It's so sad. Under my administration, we are going to make sure that we come up with policies and measures that are going to ensure that the next generation will find Zambia in a better place than we are today. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mwila. Well, as you spoke, Given really disagreed with you, and she felt you were being sneaky by seeking the people to vote. So I'll give her the first chance to rebut to what you were saying.
Thank you, Jonah. Comrade, a very wonderful speech. However, you lose me when you focus on constitutional reforms. And when you quote your numbers and your constitution so perfectly, I see the lawyer in you, but not the president. On this issue, first of all, the law is very clear. When you speak about, the law is very clear. Anything else that is not in line with the constitution is now and void. So that part is already cleared. If there is anything that permits anyone to get, for instance, get loans on behalf of this country, and the government and the constitution demands that for loans need to be approved by parliament.
You have 10 seconds.
Then it's a direct issue. No reforms need to happen. It's an issue of just saying the constitution says this, we shall then abide by this. So wouldn't it be wasting money to then begin reforms when the constitution is clear?
Okay, you've clearly said that when a law is not consistent with the constitution, it's now and void.
Exactly.
That's true. I agree with you. But this is one, I'm going to remind you of something that happened recently. We had a situation where a member of parliament, an individual went to parliament without a grade 12 certificate, okay? That's because at the time there was a law that was allowing that. Right now I can tell you that we've got a law which is the Loans and Guarantees Authorization Act, which gives the minister powers to contract on behalf of government. So if I'm the minister, I can actually go out, despite of what the constitution says. I can say, oh, I've got a law which backs me. I can use that as an excuse. So we need to make sure that we deal with that issue because altogether there's inconsistency.
Well, the reason, I don't know, given you seem to disagree, but what you're saying is what's been happening. Majority of Zambia's debt has not been approved by parliament as is the expectation.
Exactly. So the step then is not to reform the law. The law is already there. That is why I say we must enforce the law. It is not a need of reforming it because any law that is not in line with the constitution is now and void.
Allow his time.
Yes, the law is there which allows the minister to contract on behalf of government. So what I'm saying is that we need to make sure that we amend this law so that it becomes consistent with the constitution. I don't know why she's disagreeing.
Barry seems to also disagree.
Well, one thing I appreciate about your presentation is that you actually gave us solutions, which Ms. Given did not. However, your solutions are on good reforms on governance. I believe you have not tackled our debt issue with the seriousness it deserves. What you talk about will not really change our debt in a significant way. It is reactive and not proactive. We have serious debt of 5 billion, for example, of euro bonds, 3 billion of euro bonds that we need to pay back by 2022.
Are you asking me a question or
okay, so I'm asking you to tell us exactly how will you clear our debt situation, because your good reforms to governance will not translate into money.
Well, if I don't know what you're saying by that, but I'm going to ask the viewers out there. If me saying that we are going to make sure that the Auditor General is not appointed by the President and also giving security of tenure to the Auditor General is not going to provide transparency to government, to the viewers out there, I want them to get me very clear because this is very important. I've said that we are going to amend the Constitution, particularly 57, to deal with by-elections. Are you telling me we are not going to save money? Well, I don't know. When it comes to Article 72...
You should know, Mr. President. I think you should know.
I want them to judge for themselves, the viewers out there. I said clearly that we are going to amend Article 72 also to see to it that any member of parliament who does not declare assets loses their seat. And clearly we've seen that members of parliament have not been declaring assets. It shows that some of them will enter parliament today, 2 years, 3 years later, or from nowhere they become one of the richest people in the country. Sorry?
There's no time for you, Barry. There's no time for you, Barry. Caristo, we're good?
No, it's all right.
I hope it is, because Mwila, your time is up. How do you feel you did?
I did very well, and these are practical solutions, not solutions that a typical politician is going to tell you. These are practical solutions
all right, I just wanted to know how you did. You will not steal any more of my time, sir.
All right, thank you.
All the best to you as the voter is anticipating beginning to vote. Caristo.
Yes.
How you feel?
I'm feeling confident.
You're feeling confident?
Yes.
Well, you got the second highest vote in the rate of the people's vote in this edition of the People's President. How does that make you feel to be second best?
I feel good. I feel like I am communicating the right message to the viewers out there. And it has made me more confident today to deliver my best.
Do you feel you will bring out the issues that people are concerned about and give the solutions they so need?
Yes, I believe I'm going to give the solutions that the people need so that such kind of issues that have been raised by the precurrent speakers cannot repeat themselves. And yeah.
You're watching The People's President, brought to you by the Center for Trade Policy and Development. This is an initiative by the CTPD with Diamond TV as their broadcasting partner, and would like to encourage you to participate. That's by leaving your messages on the comment section of our Facebook page. But you can also tweet at us at Diamond TV Zambia. You can follow me on Twitter at Buyoya Jonah and our candidates. But you can use the hashtag The People's President for you to interact with us, and some of your tweets will be showing on the TV screen. Karisto Mumba, you're the next speaker. You have 5 minutes to address the people. Within that 5 minutes, you must address the subject, public debt and its impact on poverty and inequality. Tell us how your government will deal with Zambia's debt situation and what your government will do to reduce poverty and inequality. You look in this camera and your 5 minutes begins now.
Happy Mother's Day to all our mothers, and thank you so much for all of you who voted for me. And now the topic has already been introduced, so I want to just highlight how I'm going to solve the debt situation, the public debt situation, and how we're going to come out of it. So as we are speaking, Zambia sits on 18 billion US dollar debt. Now, that's a trickle-down system, and it's something that has affected all of us because the government does not have the capacity to pay back the debt in as much as parastatals and other financial institutions are concerned. We don't have the working parastatals or institutions that generate so much money for us to be able to pay back the debt. So who pays for that money? It's you and me through taxation. We are highly taxed, and the middle class income is the most affected, as well as, yeah. So I am going to go to the solutions that we are going to implement once you put me as your president. The first thing that we are going to do is to amend the Loans and Guarantees Act to agree with the Constitution. Most of the problems that we are facing, especially with the debt crisis, is because the Constitution does not agree with the Loans and Guarantees Act. The Constitution says that the National Assembly is the master when it comes to making decisions about debt. And on the contrary, the Loans and Guarantees Act says that a minister in its capacity can borrow for the 18 million Zambian people. But then that is dangerous because a minister does have political ambitions that he has to fulfill. Then the second thing that we're going to do is to mandate policy actions that should be embedded in the law in line with the advice from the IMF and the World Bank for prudent debt management. So the World Bank and the IMF have been giving us red flags. They've been giving us their analysis of how we should manage our debt, and we do not pay attention. So it must be embedded within our law that whenever such kind of red flags are given to us, we act immediately. And then the third thing that I'm going to do is to institute transparency and political tolerance in debt management. Now, the problem is we don't acknowledge the technocrats, the economists, and anyone who has got a different opinions about what we are doing as government. We have adversarial sort of politics in Africa, and the people that come with solutions, as long as they do not match with what we have on our table, we rubbish them. So we are going to have a political tolerance for the opposition to come to the table, because if they are not against the Zambian citizens, then they are for us. Then the fourth thing that I'm going to do is to halt any low-income projects that requires us to borrow from China. Then the other thing that I'm going to do is set a debt ceiling as a percentage of our GDP. We need a threshold that we cannot cross when it comes to borrowing. There's no way we can borrow 96% of our GDP as the debt shows. So our economy is currently insolvent, almost insolvent. So we should have a threshold that we can't exceed when we are borrowing. Then how are we going to bring the people out of poverty? The first thing we are going to do is to invest in human capital. Now, when we talk about investing in human capital, we're talking about investing in education. We are talking about investing in health. So we are going to do that by firstly raising the money. How are we going to raise the money? We have to reduce on expenditure. So we are going to scrap off certain ministries that are not working for the people, such as the Ministry of Religious Affairs. So the runoff for the monies that are going to come from there are going to invest into our education. Then the second thing that I'm going to do is to invest in agriculture. We should realize by now that agriculture is agriculture is the way to go, and copper is a finite resource that can finish. God has stopped making minerals. God has stopped making Zambia, land. We should invest whatever that we are getting from the agricultural sector from the mines and inject it into the agricultural sector. The third thing that I'm going to do is to introduce tax break to companies that are involved in energy production, such as wind and solar. So this is a sector that has got a good potential. We haven't invested much in this, and that is why we are having electricity or energy deficit. But if we can encourage more people to invest in this area of business, I think we are going to do a lot. Then the other thing that I'm going to do is to...
your time is up. Your time is up. I noticed that Given and Barry were quite in disagreement with what you were saying. But I also hear similarities between your ideology and Mwila's ideology. Maybe you should consider a coalition government. Do you think that that's the best representation of your initial idea, Mwila?
Not really, but on most of the things that he has said, I do agree with him. When he said us amending the Loans and Guarantees Authorization Act, I strongly feel that if we are going to deal with that issue, most of the problems that we're having will be dealt with.
Barry?
Yes. Thank you for that. It was fast. It was like a rap song. And I noticed you used a lot of big words and used as an opportunity to state some very interesting facts that I consider to be very wrong. You said stuff like 96% of our GDP is debt. What does that really mean?
Okay.
So I'm thinking, and it's similar to Mwila, but like Mwila's solution, it's not proactive. Right now, Zambia is in code red. We need a solution that will pay back our debt. This will cause us not to get more debt in the future. But your solution will not tell us how we pay back our debt now, and we need to pay back our debt now because right now.
Yeah. So when I said our debt is almost insolvent, it's about 96% of the GDP. You have to look at the GDP of Zambia. It's about 21 to 23, somewhere there. So if you do your calculation, you find that is about 96% of our GDP.
So one of the things that he says is that you were making a rap song. Do you think that's what was happening?
That is because we have limited time and I have to compress my points as much as possible. Then the other thing he mentioned was, how am I going to pay back the loans? So we have to first regain the confidence that the IMF and the World Bank had in us.
So
and
you want
we
to
can
borrow?
Reactivate the 3 billion that is available for us to borrow and do the refinancing to those commercial lenders that have given us the money. So what we are literally doing is we are getting the loans from the IMF or from the World Bank at lower rates and then extinguishing the other debts from the commercial lenders so that we take advantage of the differences.
Given?
I will rebuttal later.
Mwila?
Well, I will not join my colleague there to embarrass my friend on national TV, but all I can say is, my question for Mr. Mumba is, you've said you're going to introduce tax breaks for companies that will invest into renewable sources of energy.
Yeah.
My question is, for how long are you going to do that? Because this is the tax that we need as a country to run our economy.
Yeah, so you see, we get it wrong when we talk about taxation. And we believe in Africa that the only way we can source for money as government is through getting taxes. But there are other ways that we can get money as a government. We have to invest in manufacturing, in industry, and all sorts of things. Now, when we are talking about giving the tax breaks, obviously it's not going to be something that is embedded in the...
What period? 1 year?
We can give for 6 months. We can give for 1 year. We can give for that much.
Don't have a
what
plan,
we
you're
want
not
is
sure?
to just encourage other people to take this area of investment or business seriously, so that we can complement the hydroelectric production with the same.
You have 2 minutes remaining for you to finish your thoughts if there's anything that was remaining there.
Yeah, I do have. So the other things that we are going to do is to introduce empowerment. But the kind of empowerment that we are going to introduce is not the one that you give money. So we are going to give capital equipment to the farmers so that we can I would say that we grow our harvest. And also, I am going to ensure that the loopholes in the Constitution are mended. Now, most people take advantage of the loopholes in the Constitution. Today, I can be the best Karisto and you vote for me. Now, if there are loopholes in the constitutions, those are the ones that are going to determine the extent of manipulation that I can abet. So I want to work on the loopholes that are there in the Constitution so that we have the rule of law and everyone is equal before the law.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap of your time. Let's give him a round of applause. Let's give him a round of applause. He's spoken for 7 minutes, only because the other candidates didn't have a rebuttal. Quite interesting. Barry, well, yours must be quite interesting to watch after having thrown quite a barrage of jabs at your colleague, thinking that he was rapping. Are you nervous that they are looking out for what you have to say now?
I'm trying to contain myself right now. I think my colleague pointed out I embarrassed my friend here. And the thing is, I feel passionate about this because it's affecting real Zambian people. And to see my colleagues water down the situation the way they have is hurting me right now.
By rapping, as you call it?
No. We have a serious situation, a serious problem right now as a country. And I see the intentions is good, the solutions, but they have really watered down the situation and given us watered down responses that I believe cannot change where we are right now. And it saddens me to see this right now.
Well, you have 5 minutes, and let's see just how much water you will not pour on this issue. Your 5 minutes is going to be you speaking in this camera here. Are you feeling okay? Are you ready to go? Are we ready to go?
Yeah, we are.
Ready or not, we have to go, and your 5 minutes begins now.
My fathers and mothers, my brothers and sisters, I wish I could put a smile on my face, but what we're talking about right now is public debt. And my colleagues have labored to talk about it and have voted down the solution, and doing so giving us watered down solutions as well. But I want to give it to you the way it is. Yesterday I walked into a retail shop and it crushed my spirit. A tray of eggs is now going at 50 kwacha. With me, I have some money coins. This is 5 kwacha. Some years ago, I could buy a loaf of bread with this. Today, I cannot. This is 20 kwacha. Some years ago, I could buy at least 1 kg of sugar with this. Today, I cannot. Over 55% of Zambians still live under the poverty line. And many of us are struggling right now, including my own family. That is why when I speak about this, I want to ensure I give you as it is. I understand the issue of debt is complicated and hard to understand, so I will try to simplify it as much as I could. As of 2011, our Zambian public debt was at $1.9 billion. As of today, that debt has multiplied almost 7 times, as we are currently at an external public debt of $12.74 billion. And this is just external debt. Our total debt, with domestic debt included, is coming to $18.88 billion. In kwacha, that is 415 kwacha, billions we have to pay back. We need real solutions that will help you and I. Right now, most of you are feeling the impact of an economy in recession. Why? Because our national budget cannot allow for our government to spend on you. They are spending on giving back this debt. Now, I want to give you solutions that will help us, that will make you and I have a better way of living. I know it is hard to connect how our debt impacts you right now, but it is also true that whether you're a teacher, whether you're a nurse, whether you're a doctor, wherever you are right now in Zambia, you are feeling the impact of this debt. My strategy will involve 4 simple points. But before I talk about that, let me point out one thing. Currently, our national budget, our 2021 national budget that was recently presented, is a total of 119 billion kwacha. 119 billion kwacha, that's our national budget for 2021. Of this money, we only have 68 billion kwacha. That means our current government wants to borrow more money so it can finance our national budget. And look at the already big amount of debt that we have. If we do this, I know you don't want it, but this situation can get much, much worse. I am a son of the soil and carry with me the pride and the will of the Zambian people. Because of this, I have refused to stand idle and be on the sidelines as our country is labeled as a junk banana republic. This is why I have sat down with some of the best civil societies in our country and have had the collective wisdom and knowledge from expertise that have advised me on how we can change and improve our country. It is a difficult situation we are in, but I have a solution and I have a plan that is active and that will change your standard of living as soon as 2 years from now. It is not 10 years. I'm coming, we're in code red. We need drastic, focused results. And this is what I will do. My plan will include 4 simple strategies. Firstly, I will work on reconstructing our debt, and I will sit down with our creditors to negotiate terms and conditions on payments, especially on the infamous euro bonds that are still owed. Secondly, I will implement robust measures to cancel, postpone, and rescope several government projects that do not generate income. We cannot continue to increase our commercial debt as outlined in our current national budget. Thirdly, I will rebuild trust in our country for multilateral organizations such as the World Bank and the IMF, so we can begin to work together and find a solution to our current debt situation. And lastly, I will implement new policies for sectors such as the mines, so that we can have a good fiscal regime and be able to benefit from our copper exportation. Currently, we are not benefiting so much. These are tough times, but I believe we can get out of this mess. Our country is in a destitute position and right now needs radical leadership. We cannot have long-term plans. We need something that will help us right now and still have long-term times in it as well. If we don't focus on long-term times, we can die as it is. It no longer feels safe to be Zambian because of our situation.
And guess who the first man is that wants to speak against what you said, Barry? The people's president's hip-hop star himself in Karisto.
All right, so I listened to your speech and it sounds good. It's like a lullaby. And I must admit that all your time you spent on identifying and acknowledging that we have a problem, but I never heard any solution out of your mouth. So allow me to state that you've agreed with all the points that I put up because I provided the solutions. And from your speech, I have not heard one solution. You spent much of your time acknowledging the problem, which every one of us has done, and you want, when you are elected, to be able to come up with the solutions. That's what you stated. How can you rule the country like that?
All right. Just before you respond to him, Willa.
Yes, for me, the first point that Mr. Kiembe said is that he's going to restructure our debt, but he did not say how. So for me, I just want him to tell us the how part, and the second part was rebuilding trust in our investors. So the question is how? How are you going to do that?
All right, let's get Given.
Thank you. For a man who claimed we had poured water, he's brought the whole ocean and poured it right on the issue. Comrade, you speak to reconstructing debt. It's important that you tell the people of Zambia that that's not literally up to you. You literally have to go and beg these people, and you're at their mercy, so you cannot make that promise. And you must tell us how you intend to do this. You speak to rebuilding trust as well. You must tell us how you intend to rebuild this trust. Another thing you speak of is how we'll begin to get more from our copper. How will you do this? You spent a lot on mentioning and listing the problem and not giving us the solutions and the how.
All right. You have 3 minutes.
All right. Great. So you're correct when I said I did not talk much about the how, but I did give solutions, and I think my colleagues have given them out already. So you've talked about many things, and I want to talk about, firstly, you talked about how I will work on restructuring our debt. Currently, we have Eurobonds that are as due as early as 2022. I'll work on trying to negotiate such that we can pay some of them a bit later, so we don't have, once 2022 comes and we can't pay back, that credit will increase. And as it is, we don't have the capacity to pay back those terms. So we need to start renegotiating. It's not a done deal, but we need to start working on that process. And secondly, I talked about building trust for other organizations like the World Bank and IMF. How will I do this? Through corruption. Like corruption right now is too high. So I said through corruption. Corruption right now is too high, but we need to battle corruption. One of the reasons why people can't trust us with money because we have been abusing money.
How are you
We
going
have
to fight corruption?
come again.
How are you going to fight corruption?
How am I going to fight corruption? So one of the ways that why people won't trust us is because we have been abusing money. We need to set up systems that guide us and that are more transparent to our debtors. Because when you give someone money, our creditors, when you give someone money, you want to know how they use that money. Zambia right now doesn't have transparent systems that are financially able to give confidence to people who want to invest in us. So I will make the systems more transparent so that everyone will be able to know how we are using our money. This will restore confidence in people who can help us out and to restore confidence in the citizens. Because right now, even the people of Zambia do not trust us to use the money well. If people give money for coronavirus and the health situation right now, and we hear it was abused by our ministers, how can people help us when we can't help ourselves? So we need to begin to restore trust. And this will begin with financial transparency of how we are utilizing our money. And this will draw in other multilateral organizations like the World Bank to come and assist us. As it is right now, I cannot lie to you, we need help. I cannot solve this alone. I believe if any of these guys were to say that, that would be inachievable. That is why we need assistance, and we need to be able to put ourselves such that we can begin to convince and again rebuild our trust in individuals and corporations that can help us out.
Well, unfortunately, Mwila, I know that you've got something to say, so I'm going to give you, I'll give all of you 30 seconds of an appeal. I don't know if you want to spend your 30 seconds to talk about your fellow candidate, or you will spend the 30 seconds talking about yourself. Because you are a feminist, given, and you do not subscribe to women first, ladies first, I will not begin with you. So I will begin with Barry. You have 30 seconds, and your 30 seconds begins now.
These are tough times for all of us, and I'm sure all of us are feeling the impact of an economy in recession. And our debt situation is real. Our debt situation is real. That means real solutions, and solutions that will get us out of this mess as soon as possible. My focus will be on adjusting our national budget such that it will be able to have more larger fiscal space that will have us allocating money to more sectors that generate income as well. And that is what I'm committing to you people. That is how I will improve your standard of living.
Caristo, I want you to make your final appeal, but because this is a competition, I want you to be creative with it within 30 seconds.
So I always tell the people that every Jim and Jack in a democracy can be president. But what will determine the extent of manipulation are the loopholes that you have in the Constitution. So you need to sort out the loopholes in that we always remain with it. We always remain with the Constitution, but presidents do go. We don't know the kind of a leader we are going to have tomorrow. So we need to sort the problems in our Constitution because it will always be here for us, but not the leaders. So I can be the best president today, but what of tomorrow? So the Constitution should not leave any loopholes, and that is what I intend to do when you elect me as your president. The evolution, I have set the revolution in motion, and it is what matters. I want for people to feed into my ideas, and the solutions indeed shall be implemented like I outlined.
I know you have a lot to say, Mr. President, but you only have 30 seconds. Please. Mwila.
I would like to appeal to the viewers out there. You've heard us give our measures. I want you to think and analyze for yourself which one has given the most practical solutions. We need a person that is going to translate vision into reality. Yes, we all have vision, but it is only that person that is going to manage to translate vision into reality that should be elected. Basically, that's it.
Well, given. The
Thank
first
you, Jonah.
shall be last. That's what the Bible says.
Thank you, Jonah. First of all, vote Given Kapolio to be the people's president. For a vibrant, dynamic, and diversified economy, this will be the solution to many of this nation's problems. By diversifying the economy, we will not just depend on copper, but the many other productive sectors. We will begin to export and make our kwacha stronger, therefore able to pay our debt and feed our children. Apart from that, we will also invest in strengthening local businesses, a vibrant, dynamic, and diversified economy. Food on your table for your children, good health and education. Vote Given Kapolio as the people's president. Thank you, Jonah.
You 4 candidates have done a stellar job this evening, and I would like to commend you. Please give yourselves a round of applause. Zambia has been watching. Zambia will be deciding, and they have to vote for who they think should make it to the next round of the people's president. Make sure that you do visit the website Diamond TV Zambia and vote for your favorite candidate in this edition of the People's President. The candidates that are in tonight's edition of the show are Given Kapolio, Mwila Wadia, Karisto Mumba, and Barry Kimbe. My name is Dingindaba Jonah Buyoya. This is the People's President by the Center for Trade Policy and Development. Good night.